From the Bible Forum, I'm Warren Sprouse. You have a credit card? You have a credit card, you have a debit card. There are 7 or 8 different other ways that you can spend money without using a dollar bill. But what would an entirely cashless society look like? A time when cash would no longer be legal tender, meaning you could not make purchases with it, you could not pay bills with it, you couldn't spend it in any way. In fact, it wouldn't even be here. You wouldn't be able to deposit cash into your bank accounts. You wouldn't be able to accept cash for an exchange of goods or services. Cash would therefore be nothing more than worthless paper. But that's apparently where we're headed. And Bible scholars have known this for generations. Others have surmised, predicted, imagined. Venezuela is rapidly becoming cashless. And here in the United States, a concerning early sign is that there is a change shortage. Have you noticed it? It's causing many stores to give you your change on a store loyalty card or to invite you to donate that change to some cause. Go to the bank and ask for a roll of quarters. You'll get them today, but there was a time a month or so ago when you couldn't get them. Secondly, if a monetary gift is given, it would have to be done with a check or electronic transfer. This means the government and the taxman would know precisely how much money any person is given. The 7-year-old who gets a $20 bill from grandpa isn't going to mind. But what about the graduate who raked in a couple thousand in gifts from family members to celebrate his or her accomplishments? If suddenly you can no longer spend your cash, you need to be paid electronically. How many people who don't already have a business have a merchant account for taking credit or debit cards? Can you say PayPal or Venmo? Both of these take advantage of a percentage fee. On top of that, every single bit of this side, all the side money is traceable and trackable. It could quickly return your $20 from lawn mowing into $15 after taxes. Think about folks who work in food service and the beauty industry, just to name 2 of them, who depend on tips to make a living. Once there's no cash, the tips will have to end up going on a regular paycheck. And 100% of that money will be subject to payroll and withholdings. All this puts a lot of power into the hands of management, and it would not be difficult at all for someone to manipulate the amounts the workers have earned. How are you going to give a 5-year-old access to money if it's all electronic? Are they going to end up with their own bank accounts and debit cards? There's also the option of gift cards, but that means the money can only be spent at certain places, taking away the vital learning curve of saving money to put it toward a big goal. Forget the lemonade stands, gifts from grandpa, putting change in a piggy bank. All those are going to be in the museum. 8 million households in the United States are underbanked or unbanked. It means that they don't have any kind of bank account. They don't have the bank account because of the fees that are attached to them, or because of bad credit or other obstacles. And these people rely on check cashing businesses that already take a pretty hefty fee to give them the pay they've earned. What are they going to do when that's no longer an option? Most of the people who are unbanked or underbanked are living under the poverty line already. This would mean that they can no longer pick up side gigs to make ends meet. They can't do odd jobs, and getting them any kind of assistance is going to be a whole lot more difficult. And then there's that coin shortage. On my part-time job, I am given the task periodically to go to the bank and get change for the dealership. and they want quarters. I run around to find quarters. I end up going to 3 banks. I go to the bank that the dealership deals with, then I go to my personal bank, and then I go to the bank I have my business account in, and eventually I can get a couple of rolls of quarters. Lately, I just have to go to my bank and they'll give them to me. To the average American, this shortage may only cause minor headaches. He maybe take a harder time paying at a parking meter or exact change required at a coffee shop. But some 8 million American households, or 6% of Americans, are in that unbanked classification, meaning that because of fees and other financial hurdles, they got no checking account, no savings account, no money market account. They rely instead on services like money orders, pawn shops, payday loans. According to the Center for Retailing Studies at Texas A&M University, Americans who make $25,000 a year or less use cash for about 45% of their purchases. For an unbanked or underbanked person, it could leave them in a horrible situation if they don't have access to the cards, said Angela Lyons, professor of economics at the University of Illinois. And this is just the coin shortage. Imagine how difficult it would be if our society became completely cashless. There's an alarming amount of power in access. But all this is relatively minor in comparison to the potential for abuse against citizens in a cashless society. If every single dime you bring in is tracked and recorded, you'll have no financial privacy. And you'll also be at far more risk. Many of us keep some cash savings around the house for emergencies. Even if there's a bank holiday, we'll be okay because we have the money sitting around to take care of any incidentals while we are unable to access our banked money. But what happens when things are cashless? All that money we've stashed away over the years would have to go into the coffers, and we'd lose a certain amount of control. Now, it's all well and good when times are okay, but what happens when there's a Cyprus-style event and the government decides a bail-in is in order? If you don't recall, back in 2013, billions of dollars were seized from depositors to protect that small country's banking system, Cyprus. This was done to make good on an $11 billion debt owed to creditors outside the country. Now, if you think that sounds far-fetched, like something that could never happen here, it's incredibly important to note that we have already built in language that allows for bail-ins here in the U.S. After the bailouts for the economic crisis in 2008, Congress passed the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Act of January 2010, which prohibits government bailouts, but does allow government bail-ins. So yes, the money in your account could indeed be used to save a floundering bank. Not only that, but think about the outrageous phenomenon of civil asset forfeiture. If you aren't familiar with that, it means that an entity can seize your property or money even when you have not been convicted of a crime. Civil asset forfeiture provides billions of dollars to the U.S. government and local police departments every single year. Imagine how easier it would be if your wealth was all in one place. And let me take it just one step further before I take off the tinfoil. Think about how many websites, YouTube channels, social media accounts have been purged and demonetized over the past few years. Is it that much of a stretch for the imagination that this could be taken a step farther? That perhaps unpopular opinions could be fined money with your dollars and the money be immediately withdrawn from the account, your account? And all of that because you disagree with the status quo? Maybe I'm just another paranoid conspiracy theorist. But are you actually paranoid when they are really out to control you?